All righty then, here we are. It is that time of the week. It is Wednesday. Some people call it Hump Day, but the real players call it Through the Eyes of Others with Aaron and Lisa K Day. So we are here tonight and really excited about it. It's been a short week, but it's been a long week, right? We serve people, and it's been a lot of people to just serve and to help. And so we have this time to sit back, relax, chill with friends and family, and we're looking at life through the eyes of others. And these are conversations about emotional residue that people not may do experience watching real life being lived right in front of them. It happens. And what we want to be able to do is make sure our view of life is not distorted. And so through the eyes of others, we get to bring in other pieces of the puzzle. We get to see life through the eyes of other people, and we bring together all of those pieces to get a clear view of what life really is. It's a time to sit back and be open to hear what others go through, what others see, what others do, and to embrace their lives and to cheer them on as they continue to move and to build. We're going to have a great one tonight. Lisa K, a wonderful person, is going to hang out with us, one of our team members that we love and adore. And we'll be talking to Ariel Phillips in just a minute. Lisa K, my sidekick, my buddy, my partner in crime. What's up? What's happening? Give us some Lisa love.
Well, hello, everybody. We're so excited to have Miss Ariel on with us finally tonight. She's been in our life for some years now, a couple of years at least, 3, something like that.
Yeah, I think 3 in September.
Yeah, 3. So real excited. This young lady has transformed right in front of our eyes, and beautiful spirit, and I cannot wait for everybody to hear a little bit about her and her journey in recovery. And don't know why I'm hearing echoes, but I don't know. Did y'all hear that?
Just for a moment, it went away.
Sorry. Anyway, don't know what that was about, but we are excited, and we've got Mr. Kelly Little on saying hello, family. So glad to see
you. Kelly.
Yeah, you guys keep chatting in. Let us know you're there. Give Ariel some love. Give us some love tonight. Join in the conversation. This is a conversation. Every Wednesday is unique because everybody's recovery story and journey is quite different. No two are alike. And so this is just a privilege to be here on this conversation every Wednesday because it's exciting. We never know what is going to come out of it. We don't plan. We just, whatever flows from our heart is what flows. And so we love it. But tonight, you're going to hear things about trauma. You're going to hear things about vicarious trauma, and Ariel works with us at PRN. And so she's had lots of fun with us. We've dug in with her. We've seen some bad days, some sad days, and but lots of victories at PRN. Every day we see that, even if it's this small, right? But because of that, we have this thing called vicarious trauma. And Aaron and I brought this on board, God, feels like 10 years ago now, but brought it on because we wanted the folks, our community, to be more aware about vicarious trauma. Trauma, we throw that word around all the time. And I think everybody's got a real good grip on what trauma is, that we all have it. How we respond is differently, but that vicarious trauma we wanted to bring awareness of, because those are the things that we vicariously put on us each and every day it's the cost of loving people. It's the cost of caring for people. And what we try to do is at the end of this conversation, not only bring light to vicarious trauma, but also bring in things that we hope that folks who are watching can reflect on their own selves. And what do we do about vicarious trauma? So we'll talk a little bit about that at the end too, because we want people to walk away feeling encouraged by the recovery and the hope that Ariel will share with us tonight. But also we know that when we watch these things, people are vulnerable and they give themselves, like every person that comes on through the eyes of others gives all they can that night. If you hear my chihuahua barking, so she won't in. Sorry, she's not coming in either. So we know that as we hear these things, it brings up stuff in everybody, and so we just want people to be aware that we need to take care of ourselves. When we love each other, we support people, whether you do it for a living or you do it within your family. You've got to be aware of what that can do to you, because we don't want your world vision to change. We don't want passion to go away. And we just want more awareness brought on that. And it is the cost of loving people. And Ariel is one of those people that loves deeply any and everybody that comes in her path. And that's one of the reasons that we love her so much, is she dug right in with us and became a family member almost 3 years ago. So I'm excited to have her on. You guys, we got Miss Darcy Kwan saying, my family. Hey, Darcy. Miss Darcy's got a birthday coming up, so we want to shout out her birthday coming up. And we got Miss Kim Porter in the house saying hello to everybody. So you guys chime in, let us know you're there. Going, and we'll break in a little bit and talk about some of the things that you guys are talking about on the chat.
Thank you so much, Lisa K. We appreciate it. And we're going to jump in. I do want to say a pre-happy birthday to Darcy and another happy birthday to Anna Fiscus, our team member who has a birthday today. And appreciate both of you. There's only two DQs that matter in the world. That's Dairy Queen and Darcy Kwan. And so we just want to make sure we give those shouts out. My man, Kelly, you'll be seeing a lot of Kelly on different platforms with us. He's family. And of course, Kimpoda. Ariel, how are you? What's going on? Introduce yourself through the eyes of other world. And we have our own world. Lisa and I have our own world going on. And welcome to our world, Ariel. Tell the folks a little bit about Ariel, and then we'll dig into some more about Ariel.
Great. Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ariel. I am an employment specialist at PRN and also social media guru, I guess. Assistant to Erin with the calendar, which I've really enjoyed doing. So that's been a lot of fun. I was thinking back, and I think it's actually 2 years since I've been at PRN, but it feels longer because I've just loved every minute of it. So happy that I found PRN.
PRN is happy that you found us also. Things are destined, and I want to be able to, as we dig in, you are more than just, my sidekick and work with me on the calendar. If you are watching and you've received any type of notice that's come through social media, Ariel did it. If you see our calendar and you see the order that it's in, because sometimes I just give skeleton, she helps me put meat on the bones, Ariel did it. If you see our marketing materials, things that highlight and promote the activities at PRN, Ariel did it. If you participate in our 5K event coming up, and she will talk more about that later, Ariel did it. And so you are more than just a sidekick. You are a true partner, and you do help us make sure that the engine runs. And so I want to thank you for that. So Ariel, you come to us from upstate New York, correct?
Schenectady, New York.
Schenectady, right? The place where legends are made. Schenectady, New York. So tell us about Schenectady and Ariel. Tell us about what happened in Schenectady that began the journey, not just to North Carolina, but toward PRN.
Yeah, well, that's a long story. And I don't think it's one that I've really talked about a whole lot. I know Lisa knows quite a bit because I went to Mama's house pretty early on at PRN when I had a pretty triggering experience. But Schenectady, for me, it is where I was born. But now where I'm at in my life, I consider Charlotte more my home than anywhere else I've ever been. I experienced some significant childhood trauma that spanned the course of about 7 years. And I spent those 7 years in silence. I didn't talk to anyone about anything that I was experiencing or that was happening to me. And I was angry. I was a very, very different person than I am today. But I was very angry, and I kept to myself, and I shut myself in my room. And going into high school, all of that just got worse. It just kept manifesting and growing in me. And I so going into my senior year, one of my best friends from elementary school passed away suddenly. And that kind of was like close to the last straw that I'd handle. And then a couple months later, my uncle died, who was just a huge role model for me. He, will always be one of the most amazing men that I've ever had in my life. And of the people in my life at that point, those two were really the only people who even had a hint of what I was dealing with and what I had been going through. And so after those two losses, I really hit a point where I was like, I can't keep this to myself anymore, and kind of burst, kind of aggressively, but at the end of the day, like, all of that needed to come out. I just couldn't keep it in anymore. And so that year, my senior year, I shared those things with my mom, and her and I had a heart to heart, but it still wasn't something that I talked about. But I graduated high school and I left Schenectady, and that was the last time I lived there. I lived in Rochester for a while, but for a very long time, even I would say up until a couple years ago, Schenectady for me held a lot of negativity, and getting off a plane and just stepping foot there felt like it brought me back to when I was, a preteen, back to when I was a teenager, and all of those negative feelings and heaviness just instantly took me over. And I finally, just recently over the last couple of years, been able to go back there and not have such a strong reaction. It still is not my favorite place, but I am able to go and at least enjoy my time there with my family, because all of my family is still up there. That being said, I did move around quite a bit once I left Schenectady. Lived in Rochester, Plattsburgh, New York. Decided in 2017 to do a grad program, because I was just kind of at a point in my life where I wanted something more than what I was doing at the time. That seemed like the option, which I'm thankful for, because that was at Western Carolina University, which ultimately got me to North Carolina. And once I graduated, I was living full time in Charlotte, and I honestly stumbled across PRN's job posting on Indeed. And up until that point, I had been applying for higher education jobs for close to a year without any progress. So I was very discouraged, and I sent my Indeed resume, no cover letter, nothing. I just kind of was like, whatever. And Bunny called me, which I still to this day think is amazing. And from the very first interview, I was like, this is the place I'm going to work. And if I don't get hired, I guess I'm just going to hang out there all the time. So it's good that I got hired.
Yeah. And you wouldn't be the first person that just sort of hung out there all the time, right? So
Yeah.
Ariel, I want to ask you this. You mentioned that at that point, as you began the grad program, you sensed that you wanted more. How does one sense what I know what that means for me, right? How do you sense that you want more? Is it something that you begin to visualize things? Is it a feeling? Is it a connection? Is it an emptiness or a hunger? What is it for you when we say, because so many people experience the desire for something more. Oftentimes we're taught it's something better and we minimize the good stuff that is happening that got us to that point. But there can be more, right? So for you, what was that where you could identify, this is just the sense, I just want more?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of a lot of those. I think for me, on every like psychology test, like my feeling rating is always like the number one thing. So for me, I'm very driven by my feelings. And where I was working before I started that grad program, it was a great job. And I was so thankful to have it, because going into that job, I had spent the last year sick in and out of the hospital. And so I was so happy to just be working. I had recently, that prior year, I had graduated undergrad, and, then I was sick, and I was like, this is not where I'm supposed to be right now. Like, I graduated college. I should have a job. Like, so I started that job, and I was very thankful. But 2 years in, I was like, this is not exactly what I want to be doing. From a little girl, I always knew that I wanted to help people. I always loved the idea of, going to another country and, either being on a missionary trip or things like that. I actually applied to the Peace Corps at one point. So I've always loved those things. Other cultures and people, and just wanting to help. And the grad program I went to was in higher education, but it's funny because I did my first semester with the counseling department, and I learned about the 8 dimensions of wellness and like everything that we do at PRN. So even though I'm not using my degree, they couldn't have been more lined up. And I just, I knew when I got there that this was the arena that I needed to be in. I needed to be in a space where people talk about mental health, where they talk about wellness, where they are practicing what they're preaching. And, there's just this sense of caring. Because I think there's so many arenas out in the world where that's not the case. And I knew that for me and how I am as a person, that was a space I needed to be in. And I couldn't quite pinpoint it until I had the experience in grad school. So for me, it's always just a feeling. And I know when I'm in a situation that's right, it feels right.
Ariel, thank you so much. So for our field, right, and our field is varied. We're a peer-run organization, but everybody does not bring that role. But we collectively move together as a squad. That's one of my favorite sayings. For you as a squad member, and I'm thinking about a specific time you and I we began helping a young man. I don't know if you remember, with his socks and different things, and we spent a few days just sort of targeting him. That was my first time actually watching you engage with the people that we served. You did a great job, by the way. So for you, knowing what we do, we serve people. What brings you the greatest joy, but what also discourages you the most? Because all of our swings are not home runs, right? Sometimes there's some strikeouts. And so we have to be able to balance those, because our home runs are spectacular home runs, but our strikeouts can be pretty disheartening. And so for you, what are some of the greatest encouragements in what you do, what we do, and what are some of the most discouragements?
I will say, I'll start with the discouraging first.
Yeah, let's end on a good note, right?
Yeah. So I will say, I think about that person that you and I were helping so often. I can't even put into words what it is, but the first time I spoke with him, I just I wanted to hug him. I wanted to take him home. Like I wanted so bad to help him. And for me, I think the hardest part is that we can only do so much. And it's hard to kind of let go. You and I, we helped him in ways that we could, and we did our best. But ultimately, things come down to that person's decision, where they're at, what they feel comfortable with. And as much as we may want to be like, you should do this because it might help, and, that we can't. Everybody is on their own journey. But I think about him so much, and I just wonder, where he is and how he's doing. And I hope that we see him again. So I think that's been a huge one for me. As far as the successes for me, I will say, specifically with IPS, when somebody just like gets that sense of motivation and they're like, I'm ready to do this, and they get a job and they're loving it. I know right now I have somebody on my caseload who's been working for quite a while now, and every time I check in, he's like, work is going great. I'm making goals for the future. I'm doing this, and I'm just blown away, because I'm like, remember back to when you and I first started working together and how different you were then, like complete mindset change and life change, and they're just thriving and at a place where they didn't think that they could be, and now they are. So for me, that just gives me more motivation.
Yeah, that is so rewarding, right? When we get to see people achieve the success they desire in their journey. The greatest thing for me is to be able to, that moment, it's not that part where we can see demonstrated the success, but for me, it's when a person, you can look in their eyes and see that today they get it, that they're determined today, they understand today, right? That today's that day of resilience. That just I don't know, it just moves me, means so much. So we're about to turn it over to Lisa K in just a moment, and let her give you some Lisa K love. So Ariel, you're in Charlotte, you're at PRN, but you're no longer a grad student. you're digging in a full-time professional. What are some of the adjustments that Ariel had to make at PRN? What's some of the adjustments you just had to make now as a full-time citizen hanging out in the Queen City?
Honestly, I feel like I was supposed to be born in the South. I'm all about it down here. I feel like there wasn't really an adjustment, other than where I was going to school in the mountains was, very different than Schenectady or Rochester, New York. So that was an adjustment. As far as PRN, I think honestly the biggest thing for me was, after I was in Mama Lisa's office and shared with her all of the things that just suddenly came up and was coming out of me, it really clicked to me that, okay, it's been quite a number of years since you've been removed from this situation and this environment, but you have not dealt with any of it. And it was after that that I really started going to therapy and processing all of that stuff, which has been huge for me. But that, and I'll never forget, Darcy told me in my first interview, everyone has their day at PRN where their stuff comes out. And I remember sitting there thinking, okay, I've had my stuff on lock so long, like I'm fine. And then I had my day and I was like, oof, not fine. So that was a big adjustment. And I think now I'm just kind of still learning to be okay with sharing those parts of me. Being open and talking about things has not come easy to me. And it's getting a little bit easier, and I'm definitely getting better. I'm definitely not the same person that I was even last year. But just striving for that.
Ariel, thank you so much. We're going to turn it over to Lisa K. Lisa K, come on board and let's talk about who you're in chat and give us some Lisa love.
Okay. Well, Darcy's sending a lot of love to Miss Ariel. Actually, well, first of all, she said we could have a blizzard at DQ for her birthday. So, okay, I can do that. I'm doing it just for you, Darcy. But Darcy also said, just the admiration that we all have for Ariel. When I read this, I knew exactly what Darcy's saying. It's hard to believe what was PRN like before Ariel came and brought her spirit into that building. It is hard to remember what we were doing without her at that point. So absolutely, I can resonate with what Darcy's saying there. Darcy also feels it was destiny for Ariel to be a PRN. Everything lined up perfectly for her to be there. And as we heard, it did. It really did. She just put in her resume, like no cover letter, like whatever. And next thing she knows, she's sitting for an interview and never left. So we put our claws in her and she'll never leave. So we're hoping. So we also have Miss Sharon Galuski on with us tonight. We have a Sharon sighting. You never know with her how she's going to come on. So we're glad Miss Sharon's on with us. But you guys keep chiming in. Ariel, it's such a privilege and an honor when anybody trusts me with their stuff. So I will say that I was very honored and blessed, and I wouldn't have traded places with anybody that day that you came to Mama's house and shared with me what you were going through. And it was a beautiful transformation to see it happen. As painful as it was, we got to see it. All of us got to see it. So I thank you so much for that day. Because I grew from it. Anytime that we are with someone we care about and they're vulnerable enough to tell us what's on their heart and mind, we grow too, and we grow closer. So that brings me to this. As you worked at PRN and dove into your caseload and with staff and people just coming in for classes. They weren't on anybody's caseload. They're just coming for classes. You helped with classes. You were leading the way in jobs and employment and careers and sitting with people in some of their darkest hours. Did that kind of catapult you to your next level?
For sure. Yeah. I am also very empathetic. And so, we talk about vicarious trauma. For me, I've always struggled with not taking on other people's emotions. And it happens even unconsciously. I'll be around someone and then they'll leave and I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Mm-hmm. And so for me, I was honored, like you, to be able to sit with people in those moments and support them and listen to them and if I could be like, I get it, and that sucks. But it definitely was an adjustment and took me also working on that part of myself to learn how to separate and not dwell in those dark moments, because that can be very easy to do.
Absolutely. And it was what I saw in you was the fact that you it did take you to another level. But what I also saw you do is not try to take power over anybody else, but try to get your own power back. And I thought that was the most beautiful thing I saw. So many people can't do that. We have people come and go in our lives who can't, they put on this vicarious trauma and they can't figure out how to take it off. And then they try to control the people in their life or on their caseloads. And Erin and I try to do our best to help folks that we supervise, help them to take that off. We are here to walk with, not to make people do what we think they ought to do because we think we know what's ahead. And what I saw you do beautifully is you did turn inward and started working on you. And that's what we have to do. There were pieces of your trauma and your story that also, I think being around PRN, because we do the 8 dimensions of wellness, and part of that wellness is family, reconnecting with family and folks we love. And I know for you it was hard to go back home, to kind of work on those relationships. What kind of things did you do or go through when you had that moment where I've got to reconnect? I know that you did. So what was that like for you? Because so many of us that are watching now and that will watch later are dealing with that very thing. There was somebody in our past that we love, but they were also a part of the trauma, right? And we want that healing. And I know you walked that walk and are very strong in that. And I know you use that in your own lived experience as you share with people. Can you talk a little bit about that for us to inspire hope in that? Because all of us we're dealing with someone that we really want to connect with, but it's painful.
Yeah. I will say, and it's funny because it's the thing that I struggled most with and still do sometimes. But communication is huge. I think communication is like the root of everything. And for me, I know my mom has always been my best friend. I have always adored her. We have always been close, but the trauma that I experienced was because of who was in her life at the time. And so as much as I didn't feel like I projected my anger onto her, our relationship was strained because I was so angry that even when I was at her place and I wanted to spend time with her, I was so mad and so tense that I couldn't even talk. And it wasn't until, I had my explosion and everything came out and we finally, we sat down together in a therapist's office and I just was honest with her. And it took some time, but she got out of the situation that she was in. And since then, her and I have continued to be more open with each other about those years and about my feelings during that time. And I know now it's hard because she struggles knowing how hard it was for me. And I think she puts a lot of that on her. And I honestly don't hold any resentment towards her. We don't know what we don't know. And she didn't know then as much as, she's Mama Bear and she thinks she should know everything and she will protect her children from an actual bear if she has to. but for us, it's just been having those conversations, and they're tough. And I didn't really start having those conversations with her until I started to process my own stuff, and get more secure in myself, and more confident in my own voice. I think the big journey for me over the last couple of years has really been finding my voice and not being scared to speak up.
And that you have. Darcy's speaking a little bit about your resiliency. So for you, she says all of your story. Ariel speaks of how you have built your resiliency. Love it. So for you, the resiliency, when did you start realizing how resilient you were? And what does resiliency through your eyes look like?
I would 2 years ago, I realized how resilient I am. For a very long time, I minimized a lot of stuff that I experienced. I was like, it wasn't that bad, I'm fine. Other people have it worse. Kind of just didn't acknowledge it. When I look back now, I'm like, that was really freaking hard. Like, that sucked. Those 7 years of my life, not only was I going, like, I was a preteen, and then I was in middle school and high school, and like, those are very formative years, and so now I'm older and I look back and I'm like, what the F, like, that sucks. And sometimes I would look back and say, I don't know how I made it through that. I don't know what it was that kept me going. I know that I have a family that loves me. So yes, that's absolutely part of it. I have the most amazing older brothers that, honestly, if it weren't for them, I would be a very different person than I am today. So that's also part of it. But now I'm able to look back and just be like, yeah, I guess I'm a resilient little girl, And so now I'm able to kind of give myself credit for that, which is not something I had done. And so these last couple of years have honestly been the most life-changing. Even this last year has been another monumental, life-changing one. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've lived your life pretty much out loud, even with the pandemic, being able to work with people virtually and made it really hard too. But I also know that you were able to find ways that your team worked with people even in the midst of all of this stuff. So how's it been for you now coming back with some changes that happened in your life, some more changes during COVID time that we were on lockdown and all that. So how's it been coming back, and have you used your lived experience coming back from the pandemic, coming back from just being isolated and working on you? How's that been for you? Just kind of the things you've gone through being the kind of like the backdrop for your life. So how's it been coming back to PRN through all of this?
Yeah, it's been great being back. I love being able to connect more with people face to face. We did what we had to and what we could virtually, but it is not the same as that face to face connection. I think this last year has definitely given me more tools, I will say, to be able to connect with people. The more things we go through, the more we can share, and we never know who's going to cross our path that might just be going through something similar, have gone through something similar in the past. So now that I'm kind of out of that space, I feel like it's just given me more to work with. and more to connect with people. And I'm grateful for that, and definitely grateful that I'm on the upswing of the last year.
Mm-hmm. So I think that I know that we refer to coming into my office as coming to Mama's house. I think that you understand now what a Mama's house is. And that I think that even in, you're not a mama age yet, but maybe a big sister's house. So, those feelings that we have when people kind of connect with us. And I know Aaron's going to touch on this when he comes back. But I'm looking forward to hearing, and I know folks need to hear, as you hear and layer yourself with the lovely person that you are, as you work with the folks at PRN, your friends, your family, just whatever, how you have maintained your 8 dimensions of wellness. And that because 8 dimensions of wellness is in our face every day, right? In our face. I mean, everybody at PRN knows exactly what dimensions, plural, that we individually should be working with. We know those things better than we know our name, because all our classes are around it. Everything we do is around it. So I look forward to hearing, and Aaron will bring you into that in just a second. And I know everybody wants to hear that, because you are an amazing individual. You do inspire me. Not that I've done a lot about it, but you do inspire me. You really do, with some of the things you do to stay fit and to keep your mind where it needs to be. So I'm just happy that you are with us and that you had that day with me. And I see it a lot in you when I see you working with people, working with other staff, even working with Aaron, which is difficult at times. I see how you maneuver around him. And so, that's what it takes. And so I'm looking forward to hearing more about stuff Aaron's going to bring you into. But we have Miss Anna Fiscus in the house. Today is her birthday.
Birthday, Anna.
Anna, she is just bringing attention that it has been amazing to witness the layers of resilience and growth, and that she loves you. And Miss Kim Porter says, Ariel, thank you for sharing your story. Much love, your family. Yeah, absolutely. So very much love here today. So Aaron, I'm going to give it back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa K. And we'll talk some vicarious trauma with Miss Ariel, and then we'll come back to you in a couple of minutes, Lisa. So Ariel, as we talk about vicarious trauma, summation is what Lisa says, it's the cost of loving others, right? It's the cost of loving people. Your empathetic spirit absorbs, but also your story, because people do love you and care about you. Your story, your journey, your challenges, your life resume has, and all of ours can, those who care about us, they absorb, watching both what we go through and our change in life, our epiphanies, our decisions to do something different. It costs others, because sometimes it's hard for those who love us to embrace the new us, whether it's the us that breaks free, the us that heals, the us that recovers, or the us that says simply that today I'm doing something different. Many times those who have been in a rhythm with us during that journey, they have a hard time changing steps along with us, right? And so when we talk about vicarious trauma, we talk about the symptoms of vicarious trauma, and they show themselves out generally 5 ways. And as we know, it can be more, but generally we look at 4 to 5 ways. So we have behavior. We start seeing those changes in how people behave according to how they absorb the traumas of our lives, the actions of our lives, and how the trauma creates trauma in others. Cognitively, how people begin to think. And we know that behaviors have a connection to what I'm thinking, right? And so how people think spiritually, they affect us. They affect our inner soul as we absorb. I know that my changes and my journey for those who love me was challenging to them in many ways, especially spiritually. Socially, we see symptoms of vicarious trauma, how that changes and one of my favorite words, our flow. Socially, how we connect to and reconnect to people. The fifth would be physical. So for you, Ariel, and I want to speak about, and I generally do, the people closest to you, not so much the things that created the traumas that you lived through, that became so much a part of your life. But as you begin to change and decide that there's something different, as you begin, as you said, to find your voice, as you begun your maturation through your traumas, and then from your traumas, as the new Ariel came, from your perspective, how did others perceive that? How did their changes, how did they embrace you? Was it the behaviors change? Was it physical? Did people change how they thought about you? What did you see socially? Did people stay away? Did they gravitate? What did you see in others, how they embrace this change, this new Ariel being brought forth?
Yeah. It's been messy, I think. I feel like it's gone one of two ways. People are like, yes, this is amazing. You go, girl. You say what you need to say. Like, you do what you need to do. We're here for you. We got you. And then the other side of it is, I don't understand. Why are you saying that now? Why didn't you say that before? So it was like, you didn't act this way in the past. Why are you acting this way now? And so I've lost friends. I've lost quite a few people in my life. And, it was tough, but where I am now, when I was younger, when I had gotten out of the environment that I was in, I told myself, I will never be in a situation where I am uncomfortable again, because I have control over that now. I'm an adult. I will not be in a situation where I'm uncomfortable again. Now, what I say is, I'm not going to let negative energy into my life. So, it goes both ways. If I'm not adding to your life in a positive way, then you have the right to cut me out. If you're not adding to my life in a positive way, then I love you, but I'm going to love you from afar. So, I wish you well, I wish you the best, but that's not something that I want or need in my life. And I had to have some very hard conversations over the last year because, I was brutally honest, which, usually I kind of like tiptoe around it and I try to be nice. Over the last year, I just didn't have that emotional availability. Like, I was tired. I was exhausted. I just felt like I had nothing left. And so I had some very brutal, honest conversations with people and was like, I don't have the capacity for this attitude, this thought process, this behavior. Like, I don't have time for it. I'm exhausted, and that is just going to exhaust me more. And if it couldn't change, then it had to go.
Hey, listen, you grab something from Aaron's life playbook. I am a firm believer, if I don't bring something good to your life, and if in reality you can't bring anything good to mine, what are we doing? Right? So I sign off on that. Not that I need to, but I sign off on that. So Ariel, that's those on our peripheral. Within us, we also we get to wear the vicarious trauma that comes from those in our lives, those that we embrace. But we also know that with all trauma, there's recovery and there's healing, right? And so in our recovery and healing, there's 5 again. And so we see these 5 things that are consistent with recovery in and from trauma. And you acknowledge all of them. It's amazing how this happens, right, Lisa? But you acknowledge all of them. The first is to acknowledge your experiences. And you you acknowledge those. It took a while. It took a while for you to shape those in your life. It took a while for them to for you to understand what happened and how it made you feel, and how to express that. But when you got it, and that became a major part of your healing. You identify the symptoms, and so we talked about the symptoms as others experience, but you yourself, how it affected you. Your traumas affected you socially and physically and cognitively and spiritually and behaviorally. You also foster healthy relationships, and you literally just talked about that, right? You moved some out and some came in, right? But whatever happens, it was all about your health. It was all about how you wanted to feel and your wellness and your healing. And you found the support networks, including your employment. You found support networks, right? You found, you talked about your brothers. You talked about your mom. You have these natural supports. And then you've had these supports that you've developed through friendships and peers and so forth. This part that Lisa talked about is major. And I always find this to be the major part of recovery and healing, and that is to focus on your own needs. And so, Ariel, what do you do for self-care, right? And it's not just the industry cliche, it's some real stuff there. What do you do to take care of Ariel? And we can start with the fact you run everywhere that you go. What do you do to take care of Ariel?
Yes. So everyone who knows me knows that I love running. I run a lot. That is one thing that,
Understatement, but go ahead.
For me, that is like not only physical, but that is, emotional, that is spiritual. For me, when I am going on a long run, it doesn't always feel good, but, sometimes I have those moments where I feel like I'm gliding and I'm thinking about stuff. And so I'm processing a lot while I run. And I always describe it as kind of like my meditative thing. I don't really do yoga. And so for me, just going out on a run is the best thing for me. So that's definitely a huge part of my wellness. The other thing is just trying to take care of myself. I have some health issues, and so I do have to, be mindful of that, because in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to go out for a 40-mile run and that's going to be great. Not always the case. So I have learned to listen to my body. And so sometimes for me, self-care is taking a nap in the afternoon, which I was never a nap person. But now I am. A nap person. Sometimes it's doing nothing. I actually have a very hard time with doing nothing, even if I'm at home and I'm sitting down and watching a show, I'm like getting up every 2 minutes to randomly clean something or do, and so sometimes for me, self-care can just be plopping myself down and telling myself, okay, it's okay for you to rest right now. Some other things I like to do, which are huge for me, especially over the last year, has been artistic stuff and do-it-yourself things. A lot of furniture in my apartment I've gotten at the thrift store or the Restore, and I've redone it, which I love doing that. My neighbors probably think I'm a little weird because I'm out there every other day with a can of spray paint and and sandpaper, but I love that. I love creative stuff, and so yeah.
Well, Ariel, before I turn it over to Lisa K, as we begin to put the plane in the hangar, you and I have become very close in our work relationship. So I want you to promise me, if I ever come to you and tell you I'm going on a 40-mile run, make me take a nap, okay? Because if I ever mention it, make me take a nap. Lisa K, let's begin to put the plane in the hangar. What do you have, Lisa, as far as chat? And give us some Lisa thoughts.
Okay, well, we got a lot of shout outs to Go Girl. to Ariel, and lots of love and thank yous for sharing your story, but also sharing what you do to stay you, right? To stay who Ariel is, because once we discover who we are, where we've come from, how it's affected us, parts that we want to deal with, parts that we want to use for the betterment of ourselves and others. It's a beautiful thing, but it is a job to keep that going. And so running and recreating things, I definitely resonate with redoing furniture. I painted every wall in my house. I painted every piece of furniture, made furniture different stuff. It was a console, and now it's something different. I mean, taking pieces here, there, and yonder, just being creative with that. And you keep doing that, because I tell you what, you will get better and better. But you also see the pieces that you do will be a reflection of who you are. And I noticed in my own recreations of the stuff that I love color. I love color. And so now as I do things, I notice that it's okay to love color. I don't have to be just plain white walls. I don't have to just have plain brown furniture. That I can have a dresser that's purple. I can have a dresser that's navy blue with pink drawers, because I do. And whatever makes me feel good. And I've got furniture that I've painted probably 10 times, different ways. So you keep doing that, because it does reflect about your creativity and your spirituality and the things that you are creating with your own hands and minds. It's a reflection of who you are right now. And as you look at that, you might see flaws in it, but you know what? It's okay, because we are people with flaws and we are beautiful. And it's okay that we don't do everything right. So many folks in recovery right now have found that creativity, especially at PRN, about redoing stuff, making something that was, now I'm a I'll pick up something off the side of the road. I don't care. I don't. So if it's free, it's for me. We'll figure out something to do with it. So many of us at PRN have learned how to be thrifty, but also but we love it. We would much rather do that and make it our own. And that's the key, making things your own. And I think when we find recovery, which you have made things your own. Everything that we do doesn't always come out beautiful, but it's ours. And in the process of painting or recreating or running or anything else that people are doing out there in their recovery, we are thinking and we're molding ourselves and we're growing within it. And the things that you're doing right now, you may be doing a year from now, but they'll look even different. They'll look even different. And I always say, there is nothing more beautiful than someone who is in recovery, who has found themselves, who is in recovery, who is healing. That is the most beautiful individual. And I am privileged. We three, and a lot of us on the chat, are so privileged to be in a place that no matter where we land each day, we are finding people right in front of our eyes becoming more beautiful. And they allow us to do that. And sometimes they don't even know what's going on, but we see it, and it's a privilege. And we definitely have seen that in you, Miss Ariel. And we appreciate and are honored that you trusted us enough to let us do that. And the folks who come and hang out at PRN, who get to know you, love and adore you. And a lot of that is because you're out there. You don't try to hide anymore at all, Ariel. You don't. Do you realize that? You don't hide anymore at all. And we get you the way you are, and it's beautiful. And I love that about you. And you teach all of us at PRN, especially our peers, we don't have to hide. We can be who we are. We can have our flaws, but we can be recreated. We can be painted beautiful. We can be repurposed to what we're supposed to be. And that's exactly what repurposing means, right? And within the furniture and things you're doing, it's just a recreation of what you've done to yourself. So I just love you for that. And I'm glad to hear that you're doing that. We'll have to swap some secrets about redoing furniture. And yeah, it's a lot of fun, especially when and I know Darcy's into it too. So, but those of you out there watching, I hope that you hear that. Make things your own. Don't hide anymore. Let Ariel's story a testimony that you don't have to hide. You don't have to hide. You can be creative as you want and live your life and get in recovery and start recreating those things that you don't like and heal those things that need to be healed. And voila, you get an Ariel, you get a Lisa, you get an Aaron, you get a Darcy, you get a Sharon, you get an Anna. You get all those wonderful people that a lot of people that are watched now, watched later will be able to resonate with. So thank you so much. Thank
Absolutely. You. Wonderfully said, Lisa, and the sentiment is definitely shared, Ariel. And the analogies that Lisa just used are absolutely so great. And she's right, you're not hidden. You're actually out front now. You're a leader. Your voice is important. Your thoughts are important. I know we depend on them. And it is what it is. And you're the future. You're the current future, right? So the gray hairs, we get to step aside and to share all that we can share to what you are already doing. And then to be able to, we share the reins now, but there'll be a time when we'll let them go, and then you'll have them, and you'll have to do this all over again with someone. And your story and your journey, your life resume has opened up the door because there's another Ariel out there. And that other Ariel now gets to look at you, to grab hold of you, and you become Mama Ariel. And so that happens, and it just continues. It's such a beautiful thing. Now, with your 15 minutes, which is an hour of fame, you get to do this, Ariel. Tell our viewers about Warm Line.
Ooh, the Warm Line is free and confidential. It's 24/7. So if you are going through some stuff and you just need to talk it out, you just want someone to listen, give our Warm Line a call. That number is 833-390-7728.
Ariel, since you did such a wonderful job, tell them about Welcome Desk.
I'll tell you about the Welcome Desk too. Kim Porter is holding that down. She is the best. Definitely can't wait to see Kim again. Love you, Kim. So the Welcome Desk is Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30. If you have questions about anything, or just want to say hi to Kim, because I know some people do that too, that number is 704-390-7709.
Ariel, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for hanging out with us. Thank you for coming on. We've waited for you. Here you are, and we're blessed by it, right? We wanted the world to see and to know this wonderful human being and this masterpiece called Ariel Phillips, and we wanted everyone to be able to come here to be able to see and talk with Ariel. So thank you so much, everybody. On behalf of myself and my sidekick, Lisa K., thank you for hanging out with us through the eyes of others. These are conversations about the emotional residue that people do experience while watching real life being lived right in front of us, right? And so we thank you so very much. Our guest tonight is our family member, Ariel Phillips. Great evening. We thank you. Please make sure you share on your social media platform. Go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, and make sure that people get to know Ariel. We'll see you next week. Same time, same PRN station. I've been waiting to say that corny line for a while. And we love you, and we will talk to you later. We out of here. Bye-bye.
Bye.